In this video, I'm going to be building another welding cart for out here in the shop. I did build this one several years ago, and it has been a great welding cart, but it does have a few issues that need to be addressed. One of the main issues I have with this cart are these side handles. At the time, I thought it would be fun to weld these on here because they are leftover pieces from an old treadmill, and it has worked great for a grab handle. I can grab it and move it around the shop. The main issue is every MIG welder I have, except for one, if I try to open the side door, the grab handle gets in the way. Also, when I built this, I only owned two welders. One went on the top, one went on the bottom, and everything was fine, but that's no longer the case. I own multiple welders now. Some are set up for steel and others are set up for welding aluminum. That means I'm constantly switching gas bottles back and forth, also the regular, depending on what type of metal I want to weld. Some days I'm welding steel, other days I'm welding aluminum, and it just gets tiring just switching these back and forth constantly. So I've decided to leave the old cart set up as my aluminum welding rig because this is my favorite aluminum welder, and it's also the only welder that I can open the door and these grab handles don't get in the way. And also, after building this aluminum mini jet boat, I've got a lot of scrap aluminum laying around the shop, so I'm going to try something different, and I'm going to build this new welding cart out of aluminum. This piece is complete and it is going to be the bottom of the cart, and I did have to grind down the corners here. That's because there's going to be a sheet of aluminum across the top here, and that will act as a shelf. I can have the gas bottle on one end and then whatever I want over here on the other end. And some of you may have noticed that I had some playing cards underneath that piece while I was welding on it. And the reason for that is I was just using these as shims. That's because some of the slats on this table have become warped, and it's much easier for me just to shim this thing up and weld it right now than it is to go through and try and make this table completely flat again. Okay, so I've got the frame all tacked together, and up here is where one of the welders will sit. This will be a shelf down here for another welder or just accessories and things. And then back here is where the gas bottle is going to sit, right here on the back. And like I said, I did tack this up because I wanted to make sure all of the angles were right angles, everything was straight and square. You can see I can sit here, move this back and forth, and there's no wobble to it, so I know that the bottom is nice and flat. So now it's okay for me to go ahead and do the final weld up. So the frame of the cart is all welded together, and before I start putting the shelves on here, I want to put some type of a handle on it so that I can move it around the shop. And instead of putting something here on the side like the old cart had that's just going to get in the way when I try to open the door on the MIG welder, I think what I'm going to do is put something right here on the front. And I've got this 1.5 inch round tube, which happens to be the same thickness of the square tube over here on the cart, and I think this will work perfect for making a handle. And when I weld this handle together, I want to notch this tube so that it makes a flush contact all the way around this piece of tube right here, but I don't have a tube notcher. Let me show you how I plan on doing this. And my solution is to build a little notching jig like this one. I saw this on the internet somewhere. I cannot remember where. If somebody knows, please leave a comment down in the description. But I built this one for the mini jet boat to make the upright supports for the grab rails, and it worked awesome. The way it works is you just put the tube you want to notch in here, and then the hole saw goes through here. The problem is this one is made for 1 inch tube, and this is 1.5 inch tube. So right now I'm going to make another one of these, but this time for 1.5 inch tube. All right, so here is the completed notching jig, and the way this works is you just put the tube that you want to notch in this end right here, and then you align the end with this hole right here, and then when you get it right where you want to notch your tube, you just tighten it down here so it doesn't move on you. And I'm just going to hit it with the wrench so it's nice and tight. And I have also clamped it down to my work table because I don't want any of this to move. And then also I want to point out that the key to making this all work is you need to remove that center drill bit from your hole saw. And then you just stick the hole saw right here in this top hole, and you should be able to get a perfect notch in your tube. And here's the notch that it made, and it looks like it did a pretty good job. And if I line it up with the pipe I want to weld it to, you can see it made a pretty decent fit. And this method works really well on little one-off jobs like this. Like I said, I used it on the mini jet boat, and now I've used it on my welding cart. And this is what the finished handle is going to look like. The only thing left for me to do is weld it up and install it on the cart. All right, so I'm finished with the welding cart, and I am extremely happy with how it turned out. I really like this finish that I put on here. That's why I broke out that surface conditioning tool. I'm not a really big fan of that bright mirror type finish of the aluminum because eventually it's going to get scratched and dull out anyway. So that's why I went over this and put that brushed finish on here, because I'm building it out of aluminum and it didn't really make sense to paint it because that would kind of defeat the purpose of building it out of aluminum. So I decided to put that finish on here. And I know in the beginning of the video, I said I was going to put my steel welder on this welding cart, but I got to thinking about it and it seems kind of silly to do that. So I just went ahead and set up my aluminum welder on the aluminum cart. And I think what I'm going to do is just cut those handles off of the old cart so that I can use my other MIG welders with it. And I do plan on putting some hooks here on the side like I did on the other cart, but the hardware store was out of the hooks that I needed. So for now, I'm just going to use the handles for cable storage. So on a build like this one, what would you have done different? Let me know down in the comments. I enjoy hearing from you guys, and yes, I still read every single comment that gets left on my videos. And if you made it this far in the video, you are awesome. Please smash that like button. And if you aren't a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell so you don't miss any upcoming Making Stuff videos. And thanks for watching.